You're listening to the Sisters-in-Laws podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women who replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women, according to the NIH and CDC. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee, and you will hear me interview sisters-in-laws who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Now let's get started. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I would love for you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, my name is Jasmine Lashea. I'm married. I've been married, going on, we're in our 12th year. So I guess we're approaching 13. I'm a mother of 4. I'm a blogger, I'm a crafter, I'm a lifetime learner. I became a mom in 2010. So I turned 21. So I was 21 weeks on my 21st birthday. So just little things like that have helped me kind of keep my pacing as far as how old I am, how long I've been married. Yeah, that's just a bit about me. I do so many things because I'm also neurodivergent. So I kind of go with the flow of life, so to speak.
Love that. Love. But you have a story, obviously. You said you have 4 babies, 4 children. So I'd love for you to just take us back on your journey to motherhood and share with us your story.
Well, I am a mother of 4, but only 2 of my babies are actually currently living. My story of loss is, I feel like, a little bit unique because typically when I tell people I've lost children, they typically think, I guess, biologically or like a miscarriage or, it's something, but I don't typically talk to people about my eldest child. So I became a mom in 2010. I was 21 when I gave birth. My oldest was born perfectly healthy. I had a regular pregnancy, regular delivery. He was autistic. And at the time, my husband and I were an active duty military family. So we moved every 4 years or so. So my life became making sure we had services, making sure that, the schools were on point, that we had appointments and things of that nature. And in 2015, my husband and I decided that we were going to have another child because I come from a family that's just me. So I'm an only child. And then my husband has a sibling. So we have the 2, I guess, opposing ends of the family dynamic and childhood experience. So I did everything by myself with the, exception of cousins and friends of things like that. And he is not only a sibling, but he's the oldest. So he understands things that I didn't understand until I had kids. So he was quite a bit more prepared for parenthood than I was. But by the time 2014 came along, I was like, I just realized that I hated being an only child and having a child who has special needs, thinking about what could happen to them when you're not there. And then thinking about you not being able to do anything to prevent. And one thing I always wanted was someone who understood him. And I felt like, I know that I can't be with you forever. So I want to make sure you have a forever friend So we decided to have another baby. And her conception was so scientific because it was almost like we didn't even really try. And then it was like he was about to go on a 3-month tour. And I was like, I think I might be pregnant. And he was like, yeah, I don't believe you, because we didn't even get a chance to really try because we had to move a whole month. And I don't know. So I took the test and I was pregnant. And then she came along. The best pregnancy experience, labor experience that I have ever had. I learned about midwives and doulas during her delivery. I learned you don't have to take. I learned so many things about labor and delivery, but also about the people on the other end, because my first labor experience was kind of tumultuous and it wasn't the best experience. And I almost decided based on that I didn't want to have kids again. And then I had this amazing experience where they were like, okay, honey, we're going to do this based on you, how you feel. I was like, excuse me? You care about me? Wait a minute. Okay. 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 So she came and I didn't tear. I was like, you mean you don't have to get stitches? Whoa. I have been singing the praises of midwives and doula ever since. I was like, listen, y'all, they don't tell you, but you don't have to rip. You don't need stitches. Okay. I have so many people that I have told that they're like, you're kidding. And then it's led them to research. And I'm like, I've done my job. I have spread the good word. I have spread the good word. So that led me to having a pleasant memory associated with my labor and me feeling like, okay, I understand why people do this now. And I feel like that gave me kind of the boost I needed in my parenting to even be like, okay, not everything about life and pregnancy and labor has to be traumatic. There are so many, things that you can do to really enjoy the experience outside of the fact that you're in excruciating pain. So things were getting good, and my husband had finally gotten out of the military. He was medically separated, so we were able to stay where we were and just move off of the military post that we stayed on. At that point, we were in Hawaii, and that was in 2017. And then that Christmas of 2017, we lost my oldest. So him being neurodivergent really made it work to try and figure out communication. But when it really came down to it, it was just us being behind, like with autism, there's a lot of impulses that you get, and the ability to control impulses, that's an adult thing. That several years later. So with autism, there is the tendency to elope. And when you're a kid, there's so many things that you want to do, you want to look for. And the last thing on your mind typically is asking for permission. And because he had so many routines, so many places, so many things, go, 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 go. Right. So on Christmas Eve, my husband and I were out, and he was at home with our cousin, and we came home and he was gone. We got home and he wasn't there, and we looked for him for hours until the next morning when one of the women who normally walks her dog in the neighborhood saw his shirt on the fence of a house that she knew no one lived in. And so she went home and asked her husband to check it out. And her husband found my son in the pool of the house that no one lived in. So he called 911, and then essentially that's when everything started to come together. So at the time, my daughter she'd only turned 2 maybe uh 3 months ago, three or 4 months prior to this. So she was only 2.5 when he died. And it was eye-opening and blinding at the same time. Like, he was everything. He From the moment I woke up to me going to sleep, it was just go, 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 go. And then all of it was gone. And I was so stuck because I never expected that. Like, you don't, I think the thing is that in general, you get pregnant, and then that's when everything hits you, where they hit you with the whooping cough. They hit you with the, did you know that a simple UTI can be the end of it all? You know, they hit you with all this stuff. And then you manage to bring them into the world. They make it. They're happy. They're healthy. And then they hit you with everything else. And it's like, you never get a moment to just, man, I had a baby, you know? And it's just thing after thing after thing. So after that, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing as far as being a parent, because like I should have been able to find him. I should have been better. Like, you go through all these things where you're like, why wasn't I? And then my husband and I started going through this something. And statistically, they say that couples who lose children don't stay together, which had never occurred to me that I would never care about that. Like, my husband is my best friend, but also I didn't care. I was ready to walk away. I was like, I don't know what we're doing. And I know that we have, a kid still, but at the same time, I don't know about this, because my son and my husband, they have the same name. And then my son he looked so much like my husband. And I don't think I realized at the time that that was something that angered me. Like, how dare you have his face? How dare you have his, like, how dare you, especially considering that almost wasn't his name. Like, it was just like overwhelming, but also unknowing. So it's like, my eyes are open to all of these things, but I'm also blind at the same time. So we finally get to a point where I can kind of release, because I find a way to kind of get some grounding, where I find a job, and then it gave me something to do. So when I figured out work, I realized that he was starting to sink too, because he was at home with our daughter all the time. And that was when I realized, oh, we both started over. Even though he was the one who was used to working all the time, he was the one who was, taking care of making sure that we had bills paid and everything else. He was starting over too, because his reason had changed. He stayed in the Army as long as he did because we got our son's autism diagnosis while he was still in. And we live in America, so insurance is difficult at the best of times. And having good health care and in all of that, it all becomes something a lot heavier when you don't have support. And one thing about the military is that there's not that understanding of, if you don't leave with a pension and a plan, you got to really know how to work the system. And they give you some classes when you get out, but that's like going to high school and then you getting out of high school realizing they did not prepare you for life. They did not prepare you for life at all. So after navigating that, my daughter was around 4 when we started noticing she had a real connection to babies. And we're like, okay, honey, but we can't take these kids home. Like, we don't know them and we don't know their parents. So we can't just take these kids that you have fallen in love with home with us. Sorry. And she got to a point when she was about 5 where she was like, Mommy, I want a baby. And we were like, oh, you want a baby? You want me to have one? And she was like, yeah, I want you to have one. Oh man, okay. After having to kind of navigate her grief, because we learned early on that she understood, even though she didn't have the words to give us that she understood. One of the first things that she said that we coherently knew was sad. And it was every night she would cry. And we were like, what, Penny, what is the deal? What's the problem? Like, we had a great day. Like, what is the upsetness about? And it didn't take us long to realize that we had moved out of the house because we were renting and we couldn't stay there anymore because there was no way to leave the neighborhood. We passed the house that he died at every single day. We had to leave the house. So we couldn't go grocery shopping, nothing. So we moved to an apartment in the city in Honolulu. And every night she would be hysterical. And we realized it was because we co-sleep. My kids have anxiety, them sleeping by them, it just doesn't work. So instead of my husband and I fighting it, we're like, okay, we'll co-sleep until you guys are able to co-sleep with each other. And then you guys will be able to build up and, work your way into some sort of independence and whatever. When we realized that she had, like, this was a sadness, I was just like, what are you feeling, baby? What is it? Like, are you angry? Are you mad? And then she was just like, sad. And I was like, whoa, okay. Our 2.5-year-old is sad. What do I do with that? Like, how do I do that? So we had decided to relocate with some family. So we moved to North Carolina. And that was when we were able to kind of start the rebuilding process. And so then that was when we got work. So we were not able, like, our son died Christmas of 2017. By August of 2018, we were in North Carolina. And then 2019 rolls around, and that's when I got a job, February of 2019. And then I realized that my husband needed some socialization. And so he started working at the same place I was in probably June of 2019. And then we started to kind of get our vibe and get our flow. We met, friends, and it became the journey of navigating the grief of people who never met our son before. And then having to talk about, our kids, and not realizing how many people go through what we have gone through after losing him, because people see us with our daughter and it's, oh, is she your only one? Oh, how many do you have? Oh, girls are so much different than boys. Things like that, where it's like, do I trauma dump on a stranger? Like, oh yeah, I know, like, been there, done that, got a t-shirt, So it became something where we realized that, like, there are tons of people around us who are just suffering in silence, because what else do you do? And it's by no, malice from the person on the other end. So having to navigate giving other people that we don't know grace, while also trying to give ourselves grace, navigating raising an only child again, and then navigating all this pain along with it. So we finally get to a good spot, and she's continuously asking about a baby, and she's, also starting to pick up the pieces of, I'm having these dreams of this other kid. I remember, like, and then she saw pictures, and we were like, okay, do you then tell your child about this other child? Like, do you do you co-sign on the memories, or do you say, no, I don't know what you're talking about, you know? So it's like, okay, I can't gaslight my kid. Here's the deal. So then you start with the life lessons of, this is death, this is life, these are babies, these are things. And it's so unimaginably overwhelming. It's hard to find joy in those moments because you have to confront so much sadness, and then there's no fix, there's no cure, there's no pill. You just, hi, this is me, and I know, you know, because you're my grief, you're my sadness, how you doing? So when she was like, I want a baby, I thought, okay, she was kind of a good time, you know, like I got to eat what I wanted, people were nice to me, you know, belly rubs, woo. So I was like, okay, all right, fine. So my husband and I were like, are we sure, are we positive? And we agreed on it. I got my IUD removed, and then we started trying. After a few months, I was pregnant, and I was like, all right, cool. I have tested, so with her, I felt like I should have had my period. I was like, it's been a month, I guess. I tested. The same thing happened with this. I felt like, oh, I should have my period and I don't have period feelings. I tested. Wow, this says like pregnant, pregnant. Normally you can't tell like that unless you have an abundance of hormones. All right. Time goes by, maybe a couple of weeks, you know, I wanted to make sure. I make an appointment, and then they're telling me, okay, sweet, sweet, sweet. A couple of appointments go by, and then they tell me, we think your due date is this, but we don't have a machine here. We don't have any of the tech stuff, because this time I wanted to go specifically with midwives and doulas, and then have them kind of guide me through the birthing and facilitating, so that way I didn't have to navigate hospital things on my own. So they sent me to their sister clinic, and then that was when I had an ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech was like, oh wow. And I was like, oh, what is it? And she was like, there's 2 babies in here. And I was like, you're lying. And she was like, no, look. And I was like, are you positive? And she was like, yeah, oh yeah, I've been doing this a really long time. That's 2 babies, honey. I start hyperventilating a little bit, and I was like, yeah, you lie, ain't no way, ain't no way. She printed off the picture. She was like, look, different angles, bam, bam, bam. I was like, what do we do? And then I was like, what's the likelihood of one of them eating the other one? Like, am I going to come back and then there's going to be 1 baby, and it's going to be because one of them ate the other one or absorbed it? And she was like, oh, honey, you're way past that. If that was going to happen, it would have already happened. And I was like, I don't know how much I believe you, but you say there's 2 in there. I'll go with that because you gave me pictures. So every single month, every single ultrasound, I am like, you keep telling me there's 2 babies in there. I know better, because I know I had taken the loss of my son so personally that I was like, you have to understand that, like, good things only kind of happen. And when really good things happen, I already know the shoe's going to drop. So you can tell me that there's 2 babies in there all you want to, whatever. So the first trimester, I was so sick. I didn't think either baby would survive, and I wasn't sure I was going to make it either. I couldn't keep anything down. I had never experienced anything like this. With my first 2, I had nausea, but it wasn't, it was more queasy, you know, if I'm going to put it to anything, because compared to this, it was like nothing. So this, I couldn't eat lettuce. I was struggling so bad that I wasn't gaining weight. I couldn't really, I couldn't brush my teeth really. I could, anything at all that had to do with my mouth, I was real skeptical of. I maybe got one meal a day, and it was piecemeal as I got it. It was the worst trimester ever because I could only attempt to stay hydrated, and even that was difficult because there was nothing on my stomach. So then that plus water just made it worse. So then I have doctors telling me, oh, we have to gain 30 to 50 pounds. And I was like, oh, so we're not going to make it, is what you're saying. We're not going to make it. Okay, cool. So my first trimester, I get a hold of bananas. Bananas are my saving grace. I find a way to start keeping some things down. And my second trimester goes a little bit better because I can eat things, and then I'm kind of getting the hang of it. But I got pretty big pretty quick. And so then that kind of added some things where I was like, okay, there's only so much that I can do. And then the pandemic was going on. And I was like, I can't believe I decided to have a baby during the pandemic. Like, like, were you not thinking? What was wrong? Why? And then I thought back to every plan I had. I didn't want to have kids out of my 20s. I was like, listen, I started it. I didn't plan on starting until I was in my mid 20s. My husband was like, no. I'm going to get you early. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay, then we need to knock these out in the 20s. Had my daughter, and I thought, okay, we'll see how it goes with the two of them. Maybe I can sneak another one in before I hit my 30s. And then we lost my son, and I was 26. And so I let my 20s go. I let my 20s go because I was like, I didn't want my daughter to feel like she wasn't enough. And I felt like if we had decided to have a baby when he and I weren't even necessarily on the same page or on one accord, it felt like I was setting everyone else up to be put in a situation that then just made the grief and the heartache worse, because then we have to navigate not really meshing or liking each other right now with a new baby and a young baby. Yeah, we're not going to make it. So then we're going to end up being divorced, trying to navigate these two kids, when had we just taken some time to figure it out, give ourselves a minute to breathe, we could have done something. So I waited, and then she turned 5 and was like, listen, I want a baby and I want it now. So I kept these things in mind because I knew there was a reason. It was bigger than me, and that made it better. My second trimester goes better, and my doctor tells me, okay, the thing that we've been worried about with the mono twins, they're identical twins, so they're sharing a sac, and is dicey when they're sharing a sac because it means that you're hoping that they each get an equal amount of what they need. Okay, he says we're out of the danger zone, and I was like, we made it out the danger zone with 2 babies. What? Okay. So then we go back. He's like, okay, so your next appointment is this time, and we're going to do these things. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I was 29 and 6 when I had my ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech said, I'm so sorry, but one of your babies is not there. It was just a routine ultrasound. We had just passed the danger zone, and I was like, all right, cool. It was the first time I had walked into an appointment super excited, super happy. And I remember feeling like I knew better. I knew better. Like I knew better. When she said, oh, I'm sorry, this baby doesn't have a heartbeat, I was like, of course. audibly, just, of course. My husband's words were, "Dear God, please no." So what I realized is that everyone else had a whole different, like everyone else, because I kept coming back with, yes, there's still two, they're still growing, they're still doing the thing. Everyone else was so ready to prove me wrong because we were going into the third trimester. And once you get to 32 weeks, that's when they're like, I mean, listen, they can come if they want to, we'll do some extra things, but they're going to be fine past 32. I went from having two babies and telling my daughter about her having two babies coming home. We had bought two cribs at this point. And then it was like, nope. And then afterwards, I was sent to the hospital because they wanted to have me get a steroid shot and there's something else. It's some kind of vitamin IV drip thing, and it makes you disgustingly nauseous and dizzy. And so the reasoning was to help with the surviving baby's lungs and anything else that may develop with, the help of the steroids. And then the other thing was to attempt to prevent any kind of infection if they could prevent it. So I had to spend that night in the hospital, and then I had to get, I think I was there for two days because I had to get 2 shots and 2 injections, and then they let me go home. And at this point, my daughter had already obtained the nickname Wednesday Addams because when I kid you not, when she was a little baby, when she first started trying to talk, we would say, "Bye, Penny, bye," and she would go, "Okay, die, die," and we'd be like, what are you trying? What are you trying to say? What does that mean? What do you mean? So from then to this point, she's Captain Death. Like, what do you see when you die? Do you know I'm just like, girl, I need you, I need you to calm down because I don't have the answers. Okay. I don't know all the things. I'm not really into spooky stuff. Like, I don't know. Ask daddy. I don't know. After having to explain to her some things about how death works and the fact that her brother was not coming back, we then had to explain to her that there was not going to be 2 babies. And to this day, because I couldn't give her more bad news. I just couldn't. I was like, we just have to tell her that we made a mistake. They thought there was 2, but they were wrong. And then when she gets older, we'll have that conversation. But she's still so heavily grieving that she has a counselor at school. Her counselor said that she thinks he's alive somewhere and that he's just not coming. Like he just hasn't come back yet. And I was like, yeah, me too, dude. I wish it was just a choice of like him being like, yeah, you guys were cool, but also I just don't want to see you guys anymore. Like, okay, I can accept that. Like, hey, I hope you're happy. But I just could not bear to have to give her more bad news because she was so excited. And she was the one who told me that there were 2 babies. Before I had gone to the doctor to get the ultrasound that showed us that there were 2, she was like, "Mommy, there's 2 babies in there." And I was like, well, girl, pump your brakes, okay? Let's just be happy that there's 1, all right? Went to the doctor, came home with pictures, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know, but I need you to be using your powers for good because this is not, we need lotto numbers, baby. We don't need these kinds of magic illusions. So the fact that I had to figure something out, it made me sad that we couldn't tell her the truth, but it also made me feel better because I knew it wasn't something that she would harp on as heavily as she has focused on her brother. So I think, let's see, 31 and 2 is when I went into labor, which was really strange because my first my first pregnancy, he came on his due date. My daughter came at 40 weeks. The first one I lost my mucus plug. The second one I was just contracting like real tough. This one was different because I was pretty sure that I had lost my mucus plug, but I was also having contractions, but they were so inconsistent. We went to the hospital and I was pretty sure they were going to send me home because that's typically what they do. And instead, they were like, okay, well, let's, do the things. Let's test you. Let's weigh you. And then we'll see. And then as I'm having these, off kilter contractions, one of the doctors comes in and is like, we're pretty sure you're in labor, but we're going to do a physical check. And if you are, then we're thinking we're going to go ahead and go through with the C-section. And I was like, oh, all right. Nobody asked me. It was just kind of like this is the thing that we're pretty sure we're going to have to do, because the baby that died was baby A, and baby A is the one that is at the bottom. So that's the baby that comes out first. So if I were going to push out a baby, that'd be the one first. When I got my physical checkup where, they take whichever finger or fingers, and then they check to see how far dilated you are, the doctor then was like, yeah, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get you, instead of giving you, pain medication, we're going to go ahead and get you prepped and ready for surgery, because we're going to do an emergency C-section. And I was like, okay. He's like, because I'm pretty sure that I can feel baby A's shoulder. I'm sorry, what? You can, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can feel baby A's shoulder and arm. So I'm not sure what positioning baby A was in, but it was not in a pushable position. I didn't have any issue with them deciding that there was going to be a C-section. My husband was with me, the whole step of the way. So because we have unfortunately have had to have certain conversations about, okay, well, we're Black and we know how things work out in the healthcare, and we know about, mortality rates amongst Black women and Black babies. So if you see something, say something, because if I'm in pain and I can't, that's your job. So when they they were like, okay, well, we're gonna let you get, prepped and ready, and then we'll be back to, try to get the process rolling. I had been saying, okay, well, can I get something to take the edge off? And he's like, babe, you got to stop saying that. You have to stop saying that, because when you say take the edge off, that minimizes whatever it is that you're going through. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's just that, like, it's not that it's, and so I'm like struggling to figure out what my pain tolerance is, what's happening. I don't even really realize that, like, I'm about to be cut open and awake. That's a new experience that I had never had before. Cut open and awake. Okay. So we go through and they ask, do you want to, see baby A? And I was like, I've had enough trauma in my life. I'm good, because I already know once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I decided no. And they were like, okay, do you want to, do you want the clear partition so you can see down? And I was like, I mean, will I be able to see that? Like, I mean, it's like they ask you the questions, but it's also like, you see me kind of laid out and, sprout. Like, do you think this is something that I'm going to actually be able to comfortably do? And I was like, no, I'll pass. It's fine. So going through it, being awake, but then also being numb and feeling people jerking your body, but not being able to feel what's happening. Like the whole C-section experience was very, very strange to me because I never thought I would be able to know what it felt like to have someone's hands inside of my body like that. It was scary, but I also did not really have time to process how terrifying like the thought was because they're like pulling out my baby as I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really cold. I can't really feel anything. I'm really tired. Like I kind of want to go to sleep. Like, can I sleep right now? And then next thing you know, they're like, oh, here comes baby B. And I was like, okay, I need you to go look at the baby. Like at this point, I don't care. Like whatever. Go look at the baby. He came out, he was so small. I was like, oh snap, I didn't know they came out that small. Wait a minute. At 30, because you think if you only have 40 weeks and we're already at 31, dude, you only had 9 weeks left. I mean, that's not really that long. I didn't realize, like they say, those last couple of months, baby grows very, very quick. I did not realize how quick and how much just in that short amount of time. He was small, he was very thin, and I was like, wow, I just, and he was a little bruised. I was like, geez, okay. And then the new journey of being a NICU mom, then just transitioned everything. I was just like, every single one of my kids is going to require something special from me. I have accepted this at this point. So if I choose to have any more kids, I know it's going to be, your needs are going to be special. So I feel like every single child has special needs, every single one. It is up to you as the parent to decide what these needs are and to negotiate with your kid on if you can fulfill them or not. Can we, have some kind of, there are things that I'm not going to have a choice on. Life, limb, eyesight, and overall health, those are mandatory. Mental, physical, emotional, I have to facilitate those things. I need you to negotiate on some of the other stuff. That was the thing that I realized my eldest taught me. Going into parenthood, I walked in like I think most Black people walk into it, where I know how I was raised. I know what I liked. I know what I didn't like. I know what worked and I know what didn't work. So I think I have a little outline on what's going to go down. And I knew from jump with my first that things were going to have to be different because I'm different than the people who raised me. And as soon as we got the autism diagnosis, I was like, well, I don't know what that means. And then everything was so new that I had to learn a whole different way to parent. And instead of fighting against a child and fighting a child, I was just like, okay, is it a bendable thing? Is it going to kill me to let you have it? Is it going to kill you to let you have it? It's not. Okay, here. Great, you're happy. Oh, awesome. Can I give you everything like that? No. But at the end of the day, you'll start to realize mommy's flexible. She's willing to bend and break. She's willing to bend a bit, So let's have a conversation about it. As I have gotten older, as my parenting has gotten older, I have realized that's the thing that has kept me from throwing in the towel and being like, listen, this parenting thing, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I can do it. I don't know who told me that I could have this job, but I quit. I'm putting in my resignation. Okay. I don't need anything in compensation. It's fine. You can keep everything. Accepting the fact that I have to treat my kids like I treat other adults. There's a certain level of respect that I have to give them. And then there's a certain level of patience and understanding that I have to give them. And that everything, truthfully, really is about compromise and negotiation. Like every single relationship is like that, where you have to just, okay, these are your needs. Okay. And these are your wants. These are the things you feel like I'm not fulfilling on my end. That's fair. Okay. Let's talk about it. There are things that I've asked you to do, you haven't done. Okay, fine. By the time I got to this point, I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew all the possibilities. I thought, I had, before we lost one of the twins, I thought, oh, I'll be able to push these babies out. Like it's rare that you get to actually push out twins. Like typically with multiples, they go in and get them. I really thought I was going to be able to push them out. I was like, all right, it'll be fine. I'll be, vaginal delivery. It'll be cool. And once they were like, I'm sorry, this baby doesn't have a heartbeat, I was like, oh, this was me thinking I could control things again. This was me thinking I had any say in what happens. And I went ahead and got my feelings hurt. I didn't, I just, okay. And then realizing now we are on a new journey of breastfeeding and figuring out how to make sure that he gets everything he needs. Like I tried to breastfeed with my daughter and I did not have enough information to know that I could have kept going. I thought that I wasn't making enough and that she was going to starve because she cried all the time. Little did I know that it takes a bit for, your body to do the thing and to acknowledge that the baby has, needs and whatever else. And nobody told me, had no idea this time around, because he really needed as much as I could provide. I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm dedicated. What do I have to do? Like, I'll pump it, I'll squeeze it, however he needs to get it, whatever. So I went through, 5.5 months of breastfeeding. It was very difficult between breastfeeding and pumping and whatever else. I bought 2 breast pumps. Like I was dedicated. And that was kind of when I was like, me as a parent is just doing the best I can. And it's really just me nurturing my relationship with my kids the same way I nurture my relationships with my friends. They have needs. I need to fulfill those needs. But then on top of it, it's kind of like I'm the provider of their wants, of their joy. So I have to help them facilitate navigating what brings them joy, what brings them happiness. And at this point, now my daughter is 7 and the surviving twin is almost 2. And every single day is a new day that I learned something, because grief has added another level or another layer to an everyday just experience. Like I thought as time went on, I would be able to feel a little less. And I found a visual representation. I was on Facebook and it was like, people think grief is, the ball in the jar getting smaller. And what it really is that the ball stays the same and the jar gets bigger. Because every single day you add another day between you and the time that it initially happened, and you're giving yourself more space to kind of accept that grief is there. I was like, well, this is lifelong. Dang, nobody told me. I was like, where was the book? Where was the manual? Where's the pamphlet? Okay, nobody told me. Like I had to navigate so many things grief-wise on my own. Like letting go of friends who I didn't really have anything else in common with anymore, Mm-hmm. Like trying to figure out how to give other people grace with their trauma too, while also still respecting my own, and also letting other people know that their feelings, their pain, the things that they're going through are valid. So many people were like, man, like I don't want to tell you, about the stuff that's going on with me because you have so much going on with you. And I'm like, what's hurting you is hurting you.
Right.
And I am not in a space where I can't hear, at least be an ear for you, to have at least somebody who can be on the receiving end so you don't feel like you're talking into the void. And so that's that, finding a way to convey that to people so that way they understood that, like, their friend is still here. I just don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like, I'm just trying to figure out how to be okay with the fact that I spent the time with my oldest as his mom, his driver, his everything. And I willfully put myself aside because making sure that he had everything he needed, that was my primary goal. And then when he was gone, I didn't know what to do because it had been years since I had actually done some of the things that were enriching for me. So having to then start navigating my friendships in a way where I felt like a real grown-up, which is very strange. Like, I felt like I wasn't really an adult, or I still don't feel like it, honestly, but at the time I definitely did not feel like I was a grown-up. And then I had this big catastrophic thing. And then, so the hardest part too is that so many people were happy when they found out that, we were pregnant and that there were two. And then having to share that, and then having those people try really hard not to show you how much they're hurt for you. Very, very hard.
Oh, that's so hard.
Very, very hard.
Especially knowing that those friends were probably there for you when you lost your son too. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
now this is this compounded grief that we have that we're trying to understand and process.
Yep.
And they don't really know how to show up for you in those spaces.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, your journey.
Ugh. A journey indeed. A journey indeed.
Your journey. I obviously, we're recording this during the holiday season, and the holiday season is very difficult for many, as a lot of us go through it. Thinking about our loved ones that have passed on during the holiday season, but not many people have actually gone through losses during the holidays, like you have. I would love for you to share how have you navigated through the holiday season, especially now that you have experienced another profound loss, and through the pandemic. I don't think we've stressed this enough, that she just talked about her experience through the pandemic too, right? Like, this all happened at a time when it was just so much uncertainty. But now that we're going back through another holiday season, I've also experienced a loss during the holidays. My son, my firstborn, died around Thanksgiving. So it's very, very much so the same for me, losing a baby around the holidays. How have you navigated that over the last, several years of really what does that look like to be joyful, but still experiencing grief at the same time? Because it's a duality to it. You can experience some grace and some gratitude, but there also is this grief and this heaviness that happens during this season.
Yeah. The first year was the hardest because our daughter was 3, and trying to keep that Christmas magic, because Christmas was my favorite holiday. Like, my husband and I are both from the Midwest, so we had snowy Christmases. We were like, oh, snow days, Christmas break, so that was I named her after the season. Like, I named her Winter because I was like, listen, girl. And to have to have to put on the face and to do, the show and dance, it was only hard in the preparation. When it came to the execution, we held on to some of the tradition of, the gifts didn't go out until Christmas Eve when the kids are sleeping. Um, the, the big lights and all of that, like the big show of Christmas. Um, and then we, do the present opening. And then afterwards, it was us just taking the time. And that's the thing where you have to give yourself the time. And that's all, honestly, that's all that it can be. Because even after, I mean, losing him we lost him on Christmas, and so we still had to attempt to celebrate Christmas with her, which was nothing. Like we had nothing for her that day. Like we had friends, like our entire neighborhood helped us look for him on Christmas Eve. So there was no joy. We couldn't even fake it. We tried, and the worst part is that she was so happy, and there we were just trying to fake it. And the only benefit was that she was so young, she was never going to really remember the specifics. Like if she had been old enough to remember, it would have been a different journey with Christmas. Yeah, every year we do the happy part, and then we give ourselves the rest of the day to decompress. And it's kind of like that on his birthday too, where if we want to do something in memory, where it be, light a candle or something, we might do that, because my mother-in-law does that, where she'll light a candle and she'll have a moment. Otherwise, we kind of take the time. And what we kind of do now, which is easier to do, which is talk about him. Like we have a lot of unique memories, because the military had us moving so many places, but we were able to do a lot of things in Hawaii that we otherwise would never have been able to do. So we have a lot of those unique environmental memories. But then we remember him because he had a very, very distinct personality. He was very funny, very sarcastic, very smart though. So in those times, those are the things that have been able to get us through having to deal with all of the bad times. And then we're also actually going through legal proceedings with the owners of the house, because the house was vacant and the pool was full, and it shouldn't have been, and there was no cover on it, no markings. So there was really no way for him to know what end was shallow, what end was deep, what was what, because he could read. So we're still also dealing with legal things with that. So grieving is very hard when it's like just when you start to think, okay, I'm kind of getting my bearings, then you have lawyers popping up asking for paperwork, or so sending you police reports, or just the legal things you have to sign or whatever, giving you dates and asking you questions, revisiting. So honestly, this has been a unique situation, because I think not too many people have a legal connection after the fact. So trying not to be bitter, trying not to be jaded, trying not to be angry, trying not to cling to the fact that this is unfair. Mm-hmm. Because there's never been anything fair, you know? It's just when things are good, you forget that life is still there and it's still happening. So trying to make sure that I don't allow something momentarily ugly, because at some point it'll be over, but not allowing something momentarily ugly to tarnish the memories we have of the island, but also tarnishing the memories that we had while we were there. Because there have been times where I felt like, well, all of this, like, they helped us look, but now we're going through this legal process where now they're trying to demonize him. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, where are we at? So for me, trying to make sure that I realize, like, when I think of this trial, that is separate from the community that was there for us, and the people who cared about a lost boy, because that was it. They saw him as, a keiki who needed to come home because it was Christmas Eve. So that has been a journey too, but getting to the point where I keep in mind that other people have had it worse and they have still managed to be good people. That's the thing that keeps me going. Like, at the end of the day, for me, it's, I realized that my I guess point for being, or my energy's purpose, is to make sure that not only do no harm or am at a neutral, but that I do good.
Mhm.
Because I don't want indecision or inaction to be something that my kids see and think, okay, I can still say that I tried, even though I didn't do anything. I can still say that I care about something, even though I didn't do anything. I want them to understand that win or lose, you have to try.
Mhm.
You have to try. And when you see something that is not as it should be, if you know that it's wrong and you know that it's not going to benefit anybody else, it's okay for you to figure out how to fix it. So, in all of this, I feel like this could have been or should have been my villain origin story. And it isn't, but only because I feel like there's no true villain and no true hero in any real story.
No, there is.
So,
I love that you put it that way, and I think that we all have to give ourselves more grace in these situations. And what I also do recognize that what's unique in your story too is that you have a daughter who was young, but now she's older. And do you think there will be a time will you sit down with her and the surviving twin to actually share the experience and what happened with the baby who passed away?
yeah, I she has connections to him through her memories.
Mm,
And we've had to validate those, because
gotcha.
she's had, dreams where she's like, I remember a boy and we used to play all the time. And, I was so happy. And she's come across some pictures of him. And at one point when she was really young, she, she'd look and she'd be like, that's me. And we were like, no, no, baby, that's not you. That's your brother. And she's like, boy Penny? And we're like, no, you were never a boy. Like, this is a whole other kid. And she's like, oh, oh, I remember him. And then seeing the pictures and some of the videos, she has her own memories. And so I feel like I'd be doing her a disservice if I didn't.
Hmm.
But then the current baby he has
No idea.
no idea, no experience whatsoever with this older kid. And one thing that I wanted for my kids is for them to really understand one another so that they were close in a way where they could support each other, even when there wasn't anyone else in the world that did. Because it's one thing to have friends. Like as an only child, I have friends. I've had friends, different friends over the years, and I've had friends that I've had for, a decade plus at this point, and they're hard to find. It's hard to find people where you're like, oh, that person is my ride or die. Like
Right.
I would go to the ends of the earth
Right.
for this person. To find that in someone and have that be genuine is very difficult.
Right.
And my daughter is so open, she's so loving, she's so welcoming, and I'm trying to keep that about her while also letting her know that she should be prepared. So finding that for, myself was so hard that I was like, okay, I have to make sure that if I do have kids, they have siblings. So I want them to be able to support one another. So when they have hard times, it's okay, we can get through it. Whether, mom and dad are around or not. Because I have looked to the future and I know that once my parents are gone, it's just me. Like I have half siblings, but they have each other. When my parents are gone, it's just me. And I don't have that other person who has that lived experience of, oh, remember when? So I want that for them.
Absolutely. I think we all do for our kids.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good thing. I love it. So what encouraging words can you leave with our listeners, those who have experienced child loss, baby loss, and as we're all navigating through this holiday season?
If you're not ready, then that's okay. And it doesn't matter how long it's been. It doesn't matter how far along you were. It doesn't matter if there was a heartbeat or not. If you connected and you felt that connection, then that connection is valid and it was there. Whether you have a baby that is breathing or not, that does not determine your status as a mom specifically, for sure, because it does hurt when you have to leave your baby behind. So give yourself grace and just know that at some point you'll be able to have the joy of the season, even if right now it's bittersweet.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's been a few years and there are moments every day, and that's just life. There will be moments every single day. And not every moment is a tearful moment. And not every moment has to be. At some point, you get to smile at the fact that you were able to have that life, even if it didn't last as long as you wanted to. Like the fact that I was able to carry 2 babies. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would ever have multiples. So the fact that my body showed me something new and wild, because I didn't think, I've put my body through things and I never thought my body would be tough enough. And it grew and it adapted and it did better than my wildest dreams, So be encouraged with just knowing that even that little bit of time, it was so special and it was definitely worth it.
Love it. Well, where can we connect with you after this episode?
Oh gosh, I'm all over the internet, but you can find me on Instagram at Jasmine Lashea. You can find me on Facebook as Jasmine Lashea. And if you're on TikTok or Twitter, Black and Chaotic, BLVCKCHAOTIC.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. This was, you took us on a journey, and I'm so grateful that you allowed us the opportunity to hear your story.
Thank you for having me. This was nice. I was hoping this was not a carbon copy of someone else's story. So I hope this helps somebody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinloss.com. To stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Loss community and receive my weekly newsletter, please go to sistersinloss.com/newsletter. That is sistersinloss.com/newsletter. Please rate and review this episode, and I will talk to you next week.